Hello, and welcome to all of our viewers here in Neepawa, Manitoba, and right across Canada. This is NACTV Reads the News. My name is Jackie Snyder. Today I'm reading the Neepawa Press of Wednesday, June the 7th. Now, as we have told you before, we could not possibly be on the air and bring this news reading to you without the help of our many, many volunteers and our excellent staff that work so hard to keep us going here. Now, you can find us on MTS Channel 30, Bell 592, here locally, WCG Channel 30, on the aerial Channel 30, and here locally, WCG Channel 12. So welcome to all of our viewers. Now, if you can support us in any way, either by volunteering or by a monetary donation, you can contact us at 204-476-2639 or email us at nactv@wcgwave.ca, and we would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Okay, we're on the front page now. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. And this is by Owen Devereaux. The Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame held its annual induction dinner on Saturday, June the 3rd in Morden. Neepawa's presence within the hall grew significantly as the 1993 to 1997 edition of the Neepawa Farmers, as well as Farmers pitchers Don Small and Vince Eastman were inducted. So in the top photo, Dave Bennett presents the Hall of Fame plaque to former Farmers coach Garth White, with members of the 1993 to 97 club on stage with them. And in this left-hand photo, Don Small receives his induction trophy from Gladwin Scott. And over to the right, Ross Tychols presents Vince Eastman with his trophy, welcoming him into the Hall of Fame. Additional details from the ceremony can be seen on page 6, so we'll get there in due course. But over on to page 2, and this is the looking back section, researched by Cecil Pittman. So 80 years ago, Tuesday, June the 8th, 1937, if the skating rink dance floor remains popular throughout the season to the same extent as last Thursday night, there will be many merry hours in the offing. The crowd on the opening night was estimated at between 250 and 300 people. And 70 years ago, Thursday, June 5th, 1947, Neepawa Air Cadet wins trip to England. The Air Cadet League of Canada has just announced the selection of Kenneth Wilkie of the No. 9 Squadron RCAC as one of the 46 air cadets from all of Canada who will participate in an exchange visit with the same number of air cadets from Great Britain. One other Manitoba air cadet, G.H. Holman of Winnipeg, was also selected. And 60 years ago, Thursday, June the 6th, 1957, John Kosmolak of Minnedosa has come to Neepawa and is associated with Angus A. McDougall as partner and manager of the automobile business here. Mr. Kosmolak was born in Winnipeg and moved to Minnedosa in 1942. He was manager of the Minnedosa Creamery for 10 years. In 1951, he entered the automobile business with Thomas Motors as assistant manager. And 50 years ago, Friday, June the 2nd, 1967, the writing of an essay on how can the United Nations be made more effective has earned a trip to Montreal for Neepawa High School student Judy Conquergood, 18-year-old daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Irwin Conquergood. Ms. Conquergood was one of 2 Neepawa Area Collegiate Institute students. Michelle Hansen was the other student, who were included in a group of 99 students from Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Northwest Ontario, North Dakota, and Minnesota who attended at United Nations seminar in Brandon. The seminar was for honor roll students in grade 11. All at the seminar were eligible to write a 2,000-word essay, with one boy and one girl to be chosen to go to Montreal to attend a United Nations interprovincial seminar and visit Expo 69. And 40 years ago, it says Expo 69, but this happened June 2nd, 1967. I do believe Expo was held in 1967, so it's probably Expo 67. Just a little correction there. 40 years ago, Thursday, June 2nd, 1977, Mayor Hurl and the town council will be sending letters to a hotel and motel owners in the town of Neepawa complaining about their rigid morning vacating policy. Mayor Hurl said at Thursday night's regular town council meeting, the Association of Urban Municipalities mid-season conference held in Neepawa last Thursday evening and Friday was marred by complaints from delegates' wives about hotels and motels' rigid policy requiring guests to vacate accommodations on Friday morning. He said that some had to pack up as early as 10:30 a.m., so the wives had no place to rest and change before the afternoon's planned tour on Friday. And 30 years ago, Thursday, June the 4th, 1987, the Japanese ambassador to Canada, Yoshio Okawa, said that he came to visit the Margaret Lawrence House last Saturday as a simple tourist. Okawa said Lawrence was the first prairie writer he had ever read and was so impressed with her work he wanted to see the town, which exerted such a strong imprint on her writing. And there is a picture associated with this story, which I'll try and get it into view here. 30 years ago, Thursday, June 4th, 1987, the Japanese ambassador visited the Margaret Lawrence home, and I'm not sure who's standing just behind him there. So, 20 years ago, Monday, June 2nd, 1997, collegiate reunion expected to draw over 2,000 to town. Organizers of the 1928 to 1998 Neepawa Collegiate Reunions are expecting at least 2,000 former students, teachers, and support staff to take part in next year's reunion. The reunion, which will take place July 3rd to the 5th at the Yellowhead Center, was the brainchild of NACI teacher Dave Bennett and his wife Myra, both graduates of the class of 1961. We've been talking about this for quite a while, and we really started talking really seriously this year, said Bennett. But we didn't hold any meetings until February or March. Since that time, Bennett and a 13-member committee started organizing class lists, booked the Yellowhead, and hired a caterer and music man. And I was there. I guess many of our viewers were there. It was a wonderful event. 10 years ago, Monday, June 4th, 2007, a woman who called 911 for an ambulance last week was tossed into the drunk tank instead. Police said that the intoxicated woman called 911 for an ambulance because she had a sore toe. Instead of sending an ambulance, a squad car was dispatched to her Neepawa residence, and the woman was housed in the jail cells until she was sober. Police didn't say if mischief charges would be laid against the woman, whose name was never released. Okay, over to page 3, and this is the opinions section, and this is Raymond Cooper's column, The Good Folks of Lennox Valley. Raymond Cooper hatches his top secret plan. Elections have always been big deals in small towns, and Lennox Valley is no exception. Winning an elected office is one of the few ways to be a big fish in a community like the Valley. About your only other options are serving on a church board or getting your picture in the hometown news. 1998 was an especially contentious election, as I remember. You see, it's almost impossible to get reelected in a small town unless no one else wants to hold your office. It's just too easy to make enemies when you personally know most of your constituency. A lack of willing candidates is rarely the case because there's always somebody who wants to be a bigger fish. Raymond Cooper was cast perfectly for the Moby Dick role. Well, almost perfectly. It was well known that to win an election in Lennox Valley, there was a huge advantage in being a member of the First Baptist Church. The Baptist Church was the closest thing to a political machine in our town. With close to 20% of the good folks of Lennox Valley on its membership roll, and just as importantly, more than 30% of the town's voters, it was hard to win against someone with that many built-in allies. Raymond, however, had a plan. A few years earlier, he had correctly predicted the upcoming boom in talk radio. He had begun listening to a nationally syndicated radio program based at a station in Toronto and quickly realized the potential of his new medium. He took note that listeners were fiercely loyal. No matter the topic, they stood by their host. At first, Raymond's station was primarily an outlet for sharing his off-the-wall social and political views. But as time passed, he quickly came to see there were additional advantages in owning the town's only radio station. In 1994, Talk Radio 880 moved to a round-the-clock format, primarily filled with syndicated programming from far-away places. The good folks of Lennox Valley were fascinated with stories about UFOs, corrupt politicians, and sometimes religious programming. It took a lot to fill 24 hours every day. The most popular show on 880 was Renderings with Raymond, which could be heard twice each weekday, from noon until 3 p.m., or a repeat of that day's show beginning at 8 p.m. each night. Most folks considered Raymond a political nutcase, but nutcases tend to attract other nutcases, and such was the case with Raymond. It didn't take him long to realize it only required 400 nutcases to win an election in the Valley, and that's just what he intended to do. If he was going to win that mayor's race, beating the incumbent silver-tongued Dick Bland and few other yet-to-be-determined opponents, Raymond needed a hot-button issue to get voters excited about the next election. He found just the issue. Beginning in February 1997, Renderings with Raymond became a hotbed of fiery conversation centered on the Bank of Canada. It was sheer genius. Sure, mayors of small towns have no influence on the Bank of Canada, nor did most people give it much, if any, thought. But Raymond knew he needed only 400 good folks of Lennox Valley to care. Heated debates concerning the system could be heard daily. Raymond pressed the idea that egg prices had risen 72% in just 4 years, all due to inadequacies in the Bank of Canada. Helen Walker was almost in tears as she spoke with Cooper on Tuesday's show. "I won't be able to make my coconut mound cake for the county fair," she wailed. In February 1997, no one knew that Raymond Cooper had his eye on the mayor's seat, but as the price of eggs continued to rise, it was only a matter of time until Raymond officially threw his hat into the race. And there is a thumbs up here in the form of a letter to the editor, and this comes from Lion Terry Smith of the Neepawa Lions Club. "Thanks to all the people of Neepawa and surrounding areas, the Neepawa Lions Club collects eyeglasses which are no longer needed by you, the wearer. We then send these glasses to countries where less fortunate people cannot afford a pair of glasses. Through the years, the Neepawa Lions Club have received many pairs of glasses, and one of our Lions Club members, Ernie Sador, was very fortunate to help deliver these used glasses to a needy country. Ernie's report was that one cannot realize the faces of the children and adults who could see clearly again. Our goal to help the less fortunate see again continues on. If anyone has used glasses, they can be dropped off at the Neepawa United Church office or contact myself, Terry Smith, at 204-476-5443, and we would be more than pleased to receive them. So I think I have a couple of spare pairs in my drawer that I could be donating to that worthy cause. Okay, on to page 4. This article is by Miranda Laybourne, and it looks like a very interesting article on a local missionary makes a difference abroad and at home. So before we get into the article, because it does continue on to another page, I'll read the captions under the photos. So local Neepawa missionary Douglas Wilkinson with a group of Filipino children. And in the bottom picture, missionary Douglas Wilkinson during his last trip to the Philippines. So I think I'll just take a drink of water and then we'll get started on this. So Douglas Wilkinson is always busy, whether he's traveling back and forth from Winnipeg, taking new residents of Neepawa to appointments, working with Calvary Chapel, the church he attends, or helping to fix up the home of one of Neepawa's Filipino families. Wilkinson is perpetually helping people. And when I think there's a little typo here, so I think it's supposed to read, and when you can't find him in Neepawa, chances are he's some 11,000 kilometers away, acting as a missionary in the Philippines. Wilkinson, a Carberry native who has been living in Neepawa for the last 12 years, has a ready smile and an abundance of enthusiasm to share what God has called him to do in his life. Sorry, excuse me, a little tickle in my throat there. His passion is being a blessing to people he comes into contact with, whether locally or internationally. I'm a people person. I'm not a materialistic person. People mean more to me, and that's why I invest in people. Jesus says we're to be his hands and feet, and that's why I make myself available to people, Wilkinson says. Excuse me. He also cites inspiration from his grandmother. She cared for people. She cared for her mother, and I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. And that's where I got all that mentoring and my morals and all that. That's where I find it. Wilkinson became a Christian at the age of 17 and attended Bible college in Neepawa, Saskatchewan, starting in 2005, where he took a 3-year missionary major. From there, he moved on to Bible college in Three Hills, Alberta in 2007. The best thing for me was going to Bible college. It opened my world, he affirms. I am single, but marriage isn't the answer to everything. God instituted marriage, but he also gives gifts to single people. My focus is on him. That's why, at this point in my life, my love and passion is for the Lord. He's given me the desire to be a blessing, and he's given me a ministry to travel. This ministry has seen Wilkinson travel to many different places to bring both physical and spiritual aid to the people living there. His first missionary trip saw him flying over the Andes Mountains into the South American country of Bolivia. He lived there in a missions compound house and both painted a Bible college and acted as a missionary on Sundays. People came from all over. They just got on the back of a truck and came to church. And when they heard there were Canadians, people came. The church services lasted for 3 hours, he remembers fondly. I had an interpreter. I was speaking and they were interpreting. People were so glued. And I said, I'm just an ordinary guy from Canada. I came here to be a blessing, to be an encouragement, and to share what God has put on my heart. Wilkinson was moved by both the poverty that Bolivians live with on a daily basis and their drive to better themselves. The young men, 18 to 30 years of age, had no work, he laments. They want to get ahead, and they're willing. They don't have what we have, where we have it so good here. They just have to work, whatever job, and then another job to support their families. After Bolivia, Wilkinson acted as a missionary in the South Pacific Islands of Fiji. Here he traveled 48 hours on a boat to get to the island of Rotuma, which is 18 kilometers around and home to some 2,000 people. There he worked with the Assemblies of God Church to teach a missions course. People there are very warm and their hospitality is amazing, he notes. Wilkinson also traveled to Israel, where he was baptized. He says upon his arrival to the Middle Eastern country, it was a moving sight to see the joy of Jewish people returning to their homeland. Once they get off the plane, they kiss the ground. When I was on the plane coming in, they park it outside on the runway. You get out into the sunshine and you walk down the stairs, and there's a bus waiting to take you to the airport. But people get off the plane, go down the steps, and they kiss the ground when you get there. Wilkinson was able to share the word of God in a church in Jerusalem and says the Israeli culture is very rich and beautiful. Wilkinson's most recent mission trip was to the Philippines this past winter, his fourth trip to the Southeast Asian country. He's usually there for 4 or 5 months of each year and says he has a real passion for the country and its people. Although a traditionally Christian nation with just over 80% of its population practicing Roman Catholicism, Wilkinson says there are still many in the country who haven't been told the Word of God. We went on the streets in the city to the prostitutes. We went where there had been nothing. We went into the tribes, into the jungles, into the mountains, he remembers. We went into a jungle. We walked into the mountain, and there are people there that don't come into the city. They stay right there in their tribe. During one memorable trip into the jungle to visit with some tribespeople, Wilkinson says they made him and the pastor he traveled with feel very welcome and celebrated with a big feast. Okay, so this is continued over onto page 6. So the bottom half of page 6. They wanted to know where I was from. Why did I come? What was my intention? And I said, I'm here from Canada, and I want to get to know you as a friend. But perhaps the most memorable of all the time he spent in the Philippines was when Wilkinson ministered to men in Philippine jails. I went there because there was somebody I knew in prison. So the pastor took me there on his motorcycle, and the young man there was glad to see me, he recalls. There, he, along with his colleagues, brought spiritual, physical, and emotional nourishment to around 14 inmates. They are young men, some not married, some married, and the wives bring food. The food is not provided for them at the cell. They're dependent on their family to come and bring them food. And there were young men that didn't have wives, so they were depending on others. Catholic nuns would come, he explains. Some are accused for some things that they don't know about. They wonder why they're there in prison. Wilkinson says he really poured his heart out to the prisoners and spent countless hours there with them. While he's headed back to the Philippines this autumn, in the meantime, Wilkinson has kept busy helping the Filipino population right here in Neepawa, a population that he has welcomed with open arms. As a Canadian, and I don't speak for all Canadians in the community of Neepawa, but for me, as a Canadian, I'd say that this has been great. I tell my new Filipino friends, you are a breath of fresh air for our community. They're very family oriented. They are willing to help any way they can because they're here and they want to make a better life for their family. While he says most of the people in Neepawa have welcomed its new residents, there is a small percentage that seems reluctant to realize the town is evolving and changing. Sometimes they just kind of pull back. They see a lot of Filipinos working in jobs and they think they're taking jobs away from Canadians. But that's not true. It's just that we're living now in a different time. And Neepawa is now a multicultural place. The world is coming to Neepawa, he enthuses. I know it's change and that's hard, but we're not what we were. We're not what we were today. It's different. All cities and towns in Canada are becoming like this because Canada is a multicultural country now. Wilkinson's work with the local Filipino population has been a mutually beneficial opportunity and one that has made him plenty of new friends. When I heard High Life was going to be hiring Filipinos, I made it a mission for myself to put myself into the community to help them when they got here, to know what is available. I take them to Winnipeg for appointments because sometimes they don't know what to do or say, and then I help to get them transferred into the community, he notes. I told them I was planning to go to their country, so they prepared me for what to do when I was over there in their culture, and I was helping them to establish here. So I was sharing my Canadian culture with them, and they were sharing their culture with me. Wilkinson says he is looking forward to his future endeavors, whether they involve him traveling to more far-flung places on the globe or see him doing his part right here at home. He says he's thankful that he's living out his God-given calling. I love traveling and missions, and I love getting my hands dirty. When I see somebody who is in need, I think, what would Jesus do? We're here to be his hands and feet, and I've been very blessed. I'm just thankful that I'm able to go wherever I can for the Lord to be a blessing, he affirms. God takes someone, an ordinary person, who is willing to obey the call, and God will do wonderful things. All we have to do is submit to them. We don't know what's ahead, but God has everything planned out. That's what he is doing every day in my life. He's unfolding things that are unimaginable. Well, what an interesting story. Okay, over to the sports section, page 5. Neepawa farmers inducted into Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame. And this is a continuation, of course, from the front page story. This is by Owen Devereaux. And we'll go to the picture first of all. This photo is courtesy of the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame. The members of the 1993 Neepawa Farmers. Additional information and pictures from the Hall of Fame weekend will appear in the Friday, June 9th edition of the Neepawa banner. Okay, the historic run of the Neepawa Farmers in the mid-90s has received some long-awaited recognition. The 1993 to 1997 edition of the baseball club, as well as Neepawa pitchers Don Small and Vince Eastman, were enshrined into the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame on Saturday, June 3rd in Morden. Other individual inductees honored on Saturday included Charlie Argue, Mather, Sean Corey, Wawanesa, Lane Curry, Manitou, David Nychik, Winnipeg, I think I got that right, Gord Paddock, Oak River, Orville Renwick, Melita, and Peter Thompson, Winnipeg. The 1990 to 96 Ebb and Flow Lakers enter the hall under the small community team category, while the 1978 Eastern Manitoba All-Stars were selected in the special team category. In the special individual category, umpire Bob Boyce was inducted. The Farmers had an incredible 5-year run in the Manitoba Senior Baseball League, MSBL, going to the league final every year and winning the title in 1993 and 1997. They also claimed the provincial senior AAA championship in 1997. Don Small's baseball career began with the Neepawa Cubs 1977 to 81 before joining the Farmers from 1982 to 1994. Small holds Farmers records for the total innings pitched, 609, wins 39, and strikeouts 274. He was also named the team's regular season MVP in 1984 and 1992 and claimed the Manitoba Senior Baseball League MSBL Playoff MVP award in 1991. Former teammate Vince Eastman also had a lengthy career that included success in the U.S. college ranks, the professional Prairie Leagues, and senior ranks. He was an 8-time MSBL All-Star, 3 first-team selections and 5 second-team selections, and helped the Farmers to a provincial title in 1997. That year earned him playoff MVP honors as well as being named Senior AAA Player of the Year by Baseball Manitoba. He was also selected as the top pitcher at the Western Canadian Championship in 2000 as a member of the MSBL All-Stars. So just below that, over to the right-hand side, NACI compete at fast pitch provincials. This is by Owen Devereaux. The best high school fast pitch teams from across Manitoba gathered in Mitchell last weekend for the provincial championship. The Neepawa Area Collegiate Institute NACI Tigers earned their place at the event as a wild card entry. In the round robin portion of the weekend, NACI found itself facing the host club, the Steinbach Sabres, and a top-ranked team in the Sturgeon Heights Huskies. In the first game, the Tigers were taken down by Steinbach 16-0. The next game was closer, but still saw NACI on the wrong end of a 6-2 decision. In the playoff round, Neepawa topped Goose Lake in the first round, but then fell to the Stonewall Rams in the quarterfinal. Stonewall ultimately advanced to the championship game, but would lose to Portage Collegiate Institute, PCI, 11-1. As for the Tigers, Neepawa's Taylor Allen earned an all-star nod for her performance over the course of the event. Now just over to the right of that, Yellowhead winger taken first in MJHL draft, and this is by Owen Devereaux. The recent success of the Yellowhead Bantam Chiefs has been noticed across the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, MJHL, as 8 of their players were chosen in the 2017 draft. Even more impressive than that, the top 2 picks in the first round were both from Yellowhead. The draft, which occurred this year in Winnipeg on Sunday, June 4th, had 6 rounds and involved all 11 teams in the MJHL. The Waiwasa-Capo Wolverines had the first overall pick and selected right winger Jake Poole of Macaulay. In 2016-17, Poole accumulated 77 points, 36 goals, 41 assists for the Chiefs during the regular season. The 15-year-old was also recently selected in the Western Hockey League WHL draft, taken in the 6th round by the Kelowna Rockets. This is the 3rd straight year a player from Yellowhead was taken with the top pick, as defenseman Parker Melchuk of Bertle was taken first overall by Neepawa last year. The prior year, the Natives once again had the top pick and chose forward Mackenzie Belinsky. While the 2nd overall pick, the Dauphin Kings took Poole's teammate, defenseman Reese Richmond, 18 goals, 29 assists. Corey King of Souris was picked 3rd by the Swan Valley Stampeders, while Brady Whiteley was selected by the Neepawa Natives with the 4th pick. Whiteley is from Winnipeg and accumulated 34 points, 14 goals, 20 assists for the Bantam Hawks last season. Another chief, Bray Rooks of Manson, was taken with the 5th pick by the Verdun Oil Capitals. Other Yellowhead chiefs taken in the draft included Brody Wilson, Colby Joseph, and Cole Stainer by Wayway Sakapo, Owen Wareham, Dauphin, and Zachary Vetch, Neepawa. Each of the 11 MJHL clubs are also allowed to protect 2 bantam-aged players from their local minor hockey association before the draft. For the natives, they auto-protected Garrett Ranke of Yellowhead and Tyler Gibson from the Neepawa Natives Bantam. The complete draft results can be found online at mjhlhockey.ca. An expanded review of the Neepawa Natives draft selections will be in the Friday, June 9th edition of the Neepawa Banner. Okay, I am now on page 6. And there's a couple of pictures with a story to them. So on the left-hand side, support for chemo unit. This photo was taken by Diane Warner. On May 29th, the Neepawa Hospital's chemo unit was the beneficiary of a $1,000 donation from Waves of Hope Dragon Boat Team, which is made up of breast cancer survivors. The team is based in Brandon, but draws members from across Westman. The Neepawa donations represented a portion of the proceeds from their biennial major fundraising raffle. The group also made a donation towards the purchase of an ultrasound for the cancer unit at the Brandon Hospital. The remainder of the proceeds from ticket sales help support the team's operations and programming, which includes education about early detection. Waves of Hope team members, Diane Michaluk on the left, Michelle Gerard, second from the right, and Carmen McPhee on the right-hand side, presented the donation to Jocelyn Shepper, second from the left, care team manager, Neepawa Hospital. And over to the right, and this photo was taken by Lorna Yerix. Elks Manor resident Lorna Yerix grew this large tomato plant from a seed from one of last year's plants. So tomato growers always like to have the biggest and the first tomato plants out there. So I think you've got a good start on bragging rights there, Lorna. Okay, the next page, page 7, there are some interesting classifieds listed here. I don't see any announcements for birthday parties or anything like that. But there's lots of interesting things in the classifieds. There's certainly some auctions listed, which are always fun. And things for sale, things for rent. Okay, so finally, the final thing in today's reading on page 8, there's a picture of from my Neepawa, a gorgeous picture here. I think I've taken a million pictures of this scene. It just is so beautiful. This is by Wes Morton. Wes Morton took this lovely shot of an early summer day at Lions Riverbend Park. The shot includes the Stony Creek School building, which was moved to the site in 1964. The school was originally established in December 1881 in the RM of Langford and was closed in 1950. So what's your Neepawa? We're asking readers to share with us their pictures of past and present Neepawa. And you can take those into the Banner or the Banner Press office at 234 Hamilton Street. Please include your name and a description of the photo. You can also email it to news@neepawabanner.com. Okay, finally, grade 5s visit Country Meadows for fun and learning. Throughout the school year, grade 5 students from Hazel M. Kellington School in Neepawa spend time with the residents at Country Meadow Personal Care Home. The students drew posters which are currently on display at Country Meadows, sharing their favorite parts of the experience. Paul Malloy, one of the residents, will again be sponsoring a contest for the winning poster. Now, there's two posters here, and I'm going to attempt to read them. One is from Gabsy. I'm not sure whether I've got that right. Country Meadows. Country Meadows is an extremely fun place. All the residents are really kind and helpful. All the residents make us laugh, and they are really funny. I had lots of fun baking with the residents. Being in Country Meadows reminded me of my own grandparents. They are loving and always something fun and always and exciting and always told fun and exciting stories. The residents taught me how to bake cookies and play fun games. I am thankful that I went to Country Meadows. Hopefully when I'm older, I get to go back and help the residents again. And this one from Brandon. This year at Country Meadows, I got to bake and the residents helped us. It was very fun. I enjoyed learning how to make cookies with a berry filling to go with the cookies. My favorite memory was definitely baking with the residents. I hope I could go there more often and do activities. Country Meadows is a very nice place to visit, and know that some of the people could have been a war hero or a doctor. I'm not sure. I something them because they could tell many stories from their past. I would want to go back. Okay, so that is all the reading from NACTV for today. We just finished reading the press. Kathy Jasnick will be back in a couple of days reading the banner. Until then, I hope all of our viewers have a wonderful day. Bye for now.